These notes are continuing for NS1. It is a handout that I will give you to use to help you. So you can put your name on it. This is for NS1 on dividing fractions. And this is really going to help with story problems. So we're just going to kind of work through these together, and then eventually I'll kind of let you continue on your own. So the first one says, I have 1/2 of a square and I want to divide it by 1/8. How many pieces would I have? This should sound really familiar to your notes and the examples that we wrote in our notes for story problems. So this is the story problem. I have 1/2 of a square, so that would be our total. And I want to divide it by 1/8, and that would be our part. So there's our total, and there's our part. 1/2 divided by 1/8. So what is a division problem? It says divide. How many pieces would I have is the question. And so in order to solve this, we are going to change dividing by 1/8 to multiplying by its reciprocal. 1/2 times 8/1. Simplify and multiply. Divide these both by 2. I get 4 and I get 1. And then these are both 1s here. So 1 times 4 on the top, 4. 1 times 1 on the bottom is 1. So I would have 4 what? The question says how many pieces? So I would have 4 pieces. And there is my answer. We're going to do the same thing for the next example. And hopefully after doing that together, then you'll be able to do the next 2 on your own. So the next one says I have 2 1/2 squares. And I want to divide them by 1/4. Which one's our total and which one's our part? Our total would be 2 1/2. You could write that as a mixed number, 2 1/2. And I want to divide it by our part or our piece, which is 1/4, and then the question asks how many pieces. So the question always reverts back to the part. This piece is reverted back to this part. The question always asks about the part, therefore the other number is your total. 2 1/2 divided by 4. If you were to solve this, you would have to do the mixed number to improper, which would be 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5 halves. And then instead of dividing by 1/4, you're going to multiply by its reciprocal. So I would have 5 halves times 4/1. Simplify and multiply. I could divide both of these by 2 to make them smaller. This would leave me a 1. This would leave me a 2. I have a 5 and a 1. So 5 times 2 on the top is 10/1. My answer is 10 pieces. So you can see what I've done on the first 2 problems, and that's exactly what I want you to do on the next 2 problems. Some of you might be working ahead already, but I would like you to identify the total, the part, solve it as a division problem, change it to multiplication, and then label your answer. You may go ahead and work ahead of me, and then I will be labeling things behind, so I'd like you to look back up and see how you're doing. Just looking at that one, my total is 2/3. Dividing it by the part, 1/2. So now you're ready to do the division problem. Instead of dividing by 1/2, you should be multiplying by its reciprocal. Don't forget to label. I almost forgot to label that one. 1 1/3 pieces is what I've got for that one. The total was 2/3 and the part was 1/2 there. should get 2/3 pieces. You should be able to label your total and your part, and the question asks about the part. So on this side of the worksheet, you had the story problems given to you, and then you needed to write the division statement and then go ahead and solve it. When you flip to the other side of the worksheet, it's just the opposite. They're going to give you the division problem, and you need to write the story problem. Could your story problem be exactly like these and start with I have and end with how many pieces would I have? Absolutely. So turn the paper over. I'm going to help you get started. This one right here should be familiar. It is actually in our notes. It is also on your test. So if you're going to write a story problem for 1 and 3/4 divided by 1/2, you can flip back and forth to see what we wrote on the other side. The other side's always started with I have 1 3/4 of a square, and I want to divide it by 1/2, period. How many pieces would I have? Question mark. And you could even circle your total and your part. Same idea for the next two. I have, and now your numbers change. Instead of 1 3/4 and 1/2, you have 11/12 and 1/4. And instead of that, you have 2/3 divided by 3/4. So go ahead and write these. I think writing these story problems out will help you when I ask you to write your own story problem. So saying it is another way to remember. I have 11/12 of a square, and I want to, and I'm writing it the same way. Go to the next line. Divide it by, instead of 1/2, now I'm using the 1/4, period. How many pieces would I have? And you can circle your total and your part and go ahead and solve the last one. Once you have that, we're going to continue on by talking about story problems, the key words from our notes, and review that, because your homework that you will have tonight is a worksheet, and you will actually be doing numbers 25 through 28, and those are story problems that you have to solve. And then you're going to practice writing your own story problem. Just like you did here, you did 3 of them on this page, and I will give you more information on that in class.